Welcome to Well Coached, a podcast about how people, sales, profit, and self can transform your business. I'm your host, Chris Weinberg, and I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get into their highest productivity zone and become corporate enough to succeed. Let's get into today's episode. Hey team, welcome to the Well Coached podcast, where we focus on how to run your business corporate enough to thrive. We focus in 4 pillars of people, sales, profit, self, and I'm the luckiest dude in the world. I've got some great friends and great people I get to work with. None more fun than my good friend Beth Laird, and we're going to dive into it today with her. She and her husband Luke founded Creative Nation in 2011. Mm-hmm. Am I got that right?
Yeah,
2011, and it's been rocking and rolling since then. They are a publisher, one of the best in town. If you know, you know. Management company, artist development company, record company, and they collect and grow this wonderful company with amazing songwriters and artists that are all super unique. I think Beth and Luke's whole mantra has been like quality over quantity is the way to go, and they don't really have a ton of rules. The most important rule that they go by is treat people the way you want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
And so welcome, Beth.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Luke, the other half of the equation, is a Grammy award-winning performer, the songwriter, ACM Songwriter of the Year, 24 number one singles, and we could go on and on and on about that. He's humble enough not to want me to brag about him, but those who know. I mean, he's a gem of a person and an amazing partner for Beth, and we'll talk about that because it's tricky sometimes running a business as a couple, and they continue to work at that and master it pretty well. Beth, what an accomplished person. She grew up in this business as well. Great experience at BMG, Windswept, BMI, all kind of honors. Too many probably to mention, but Billboard's Country Players is one, and these guys together have over 20 number one songs, over 60 songs that have charted. They've had back-to-back number ones in country and at pop at the same time with Watermelon Sugar. Yep. And then Sam Hunt, hard to forget. So an amazing accomplishment at Creative Nation. And what we'll talk about some today, what I love about Beth and her team is they don't wear it on their sleeves. They are humble servants. They are definitely servant leaderships. They give back to the community, all the stuff. And so we'll focus today on the people, sales, profit, self, and kind of walk through it. Fair enough?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, here we go. Let's talk about building and leading a creative team, which is has to be unbelievably challenging. So you guys value people, particularly the unique qualities of each artist and team member. How do you and Luke, is it conscious or subconscious, how you attract and retain individuals who align with the vision of Creative Nation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, well, in the beginning, it was me and Luke and Barry Dean, another songwriter. So it was just the 3 of us when we started. And then we intentionally wanted to build one writer, one employee at a time. And I kind of had the mentality that if I focused on Luke and Barry and I really helped lift their careers and I helped build them and create a great creative environment, that it would attract others like that. So I think consciously and unconsciously in the beginning, I was already doing that in a sense. I never went out to like really advertise or anything like that. It was really like, I'm going to focus super hard, and then they're going into the room every day with their co-writers, and they're around writers all the time. So I think writers talk, and they talk mostly about their publishers a lot. I mean, it's just the way you do. It's kind of like how employees talk about their boss, you know, they commiserate about all of it. And Luke and Barry both were just always saying wonderful things and were so positive. And so I started getting calls from other songwriters. And then I think what's naturally happened, which I've told you this, because we've worked together for so long, is for better or worse, we have a brand that people know, and it is a certain thing. And the reason I say better or worse is because it's been great, because it attracts people like us and it repels the people who wouldn't work well in our environment, which I really like that. But for worse, I would say too, it's like I always have to be mindful of not signing or hiring the same thing. So I have to be careful about that too, because you want a diverse group of people. And I think we do have that. And I think actually the disc has helped us with that as far as hiring. Luke and I wanted to create a company that wasn't like anything we had been a part of. And we wanted that to really attract great talent. And we wanted people who really wanted to be a part of a community and be in the environment like what we have. And I know it's not for everyone, but I think that's why people are attracted to it as well.
Yeah, well, that's the quality over the quantity, right?
Yeah.
And also the built-in luck that you had early on is that you had Luke and Barry who were already modeling what good performance looked like at Creative Nation. So your mousetrap got built early.
Yeah, and honestly, saying that, I have noticed, which I didn't necessarily notice the starting, or I didn't think about it, but like Luke and Barry are truly two of the very best songwriters, and their talent is beyond, but they both are two of the very best humans, and people really enjoy being around them, and they are genuinely grateful, and they really celebrate other people's successes. And I will say, like, that's hard as a songwriter because you are competing for the same cuts and the same opportunities. And this business is so competitive that I think they kind of set the bar. So when we have younger writers coming in, they really are looking up to them and seeing that they're coming to support them at their shows. They're bringing them in on rights. They're just calling them, having breakfast with them and celebrating them. And I think it really set up an amazing model of humility, but also super competitive and going after stuff and being able to celebrate other people. That's a really hard thing in the music business.
It is hard because you don't have to be a jerk to win. And Barry and Luke and really everybody in your team, I think, has that mentality. And winning's not an in-sum game. There can be more than one winner, especially if you're collective inside of the team.
Yeah, that's how we see it. Right. I mean, it's like, of course, they're going to be like, dang it, I wanted that cut. But I'm so glad you got it.
Right.
And that it's like within our team. And once, I think too, like once you actually get to know each other and you're not set up as competitors, it breeds this like really amazing creativity within your team.
That's awesome. Let's talk about the team members that you have to help run the engine to support these artists. So when you're approaching leadership and mentorship with the team, and I'm talking about the folks that are on the staff, how do you support that, your culture of creativity and innovation, and also how do they grow? How's someone coming in Creative Nation, because you've got some long-term people, I'm sure I know we're about to talk about. How do you support their growth path and opportunities and bring them along?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because I think one thing I've always struggled with is because we were growing from like the ground floor, I couldn't actually paint the picture of what their job would look like and how it would continue to grow in these next positions. So in the beginning, people like Kelsey, as you know, is my right hand longest term employee. When she came on, it was a bit of a chance on me because I couldn't paint the picture of, I know what this is going to look like and I know what you'll be doing in 5 years and how you're going to grow. And so I think a lot of it is we've grown together over time. But the one thing that helps me with that is I kind of think of it the same as a songwriter, where I want them to have really like an exceptional talent and be a great human. And so I think if you can start from there, you can really bring them in, you can teach them and help bring them up and mentor them and give them contacts. But I feel like we've done a really good job, and the disc has helped me a lot with this, at hiring different types of people for different positions and making sure that the skill set matches that position. Yeah. Because I feel like then I'm setting them up for success. And that's really a different way of going about it, because it's the first thing I look at. So where most people would look at referrals or who they know, and I naturally would do that because, as you know, I'm a high I and I love people. I'm really thoughtful about, let's start with the skill set and let's really hone in on who those people are, and then look at those referrals and then look at what we know about them. But I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of putting someone in the wrong position, because especially with a small team like ours, one bad hire or putting someone in the wrong place can
create a mess.
Yeah, we're all in these, we're in a small Music Row house office, and I do have these really strong teammates. So I want to make sure that I give someone that supports them. And I think they've all found their niche, which I really love. no one at Creative Nation wants anyone else's job. They all really have specific types of jobs that work together. And I think that's what makes us special as well, because they don't want to do the other job. They want to work with the other person who does that job.
That's great. And I know you've put a lot of effort into
Yeah.
maintaining culture and growing culture. And we'll maybe get into that a little bit later too, but you do a lot to support their growth and give them opportunities to do things other than sit behind the desk, which is amazing. Let's talk about creating the supportive environment for artists. So you have a saying of you guys follow the lead of the creator. What strategies have you developed to support and guide artists in a way that honors their individuality and creativity, but also still looking after the business?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because you're working with creatives. And as my mentor, Jody Williams, always told me, he was just like, Beth, music and business were never meant to go together.
Yeah.
We're just doing the best we can. He was like, it's art and commerce and it doesn't fit well, you know? So once he said that, I was like, okay, it made me feel better because it's not like there's a secret way to do it, or it's not like someone has unlocked it. It felt more like you do the best you can. And so we come at it like each person is an individual creative. They all have different needs. They all work differently. They have different schedules. They have different communication types, different skill sets. I really like that because then to us, we pick people in different creative lanes and we let them own that lane instead of where some people would sign 10 that kind of fit that style and then they kind of see who works. We try to go through a lot on the front end to vet, to know we are all collectively going to bet on this person for long enough that we actually could have success. Because in what we do and the way that money flows, it's always a front end risk initial investment, and it takes a really long time to recoup these deals. So I think as we get that person in place, we ask them a lot of questions about how they work. We actually have them take the disc. And I think it also is like a learning curve over time. You know, some of them want to write 5 days a week and do doubles. Some want to do 3 days a week. Some come to town 1 week a month. Some like doing Zoom. Some don't like doing Zoom. Some like to travel and ride on a bus. Some don't. But I think because we're smaller and we're a lot more curated in that, we can actually lean in on all those individual things. And I think another thing that we are able to do, since we are small, is we try to take out the details outside of the creativity. So like, for example, one thing we do is we try to help them book all their travel. And that doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you're a creative, usually your skill set is not
You're on the wrong plane.
details. Yeah. You know, it gets messed up. And so what we've learned is, okay, you're going to write with someone in LA.
Right.
If you get stressed out about that and it takes you a lot of time, and then you get there and you aren't on the wrong plane, you aren't on the right side of town to write, it screws up the whole thing that was set up. What if instead of that stress, you were getting ideas ready for when you did get there, and you got there and settled properly and you weren't under stress? The difference in creatives that those two situations and how they play out is really big. And I think like another thing we do, and I learned this from Luke, is we take lunch orders every day for everyone that's in our building. So we go to each room and we have someone write down lunch orders, call them in, go get lunch and bring them into the room. Because Nashville has so much traffic now and everyone wants to get lunch, we can't always leave to go get lunch.
Right.
And even ordering, like sometimes obviously we could do Uber Eats and stuff like that, but it can get expensive and then it gets delayed. They cancel orders. This is just a way where they know they can come in, start being creative. They don't stop the creative process, which usually they don't start till 10:30, 11. So by the time they would do late lunch, they stop and then come back, and we would have a lot of unfinished songs. So I think we're the only publisher that does this, but we have found we don't have unfinished songs. And when you have big artists and big writers that you have only 1 or 2 days.
You got to get it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have 1 or 2 days between when they cut their next record. You're either going to get you could possibly get 2 songs or you could get half a song. You'll never get them back in the room.
Okay.
Like the fact that those schedules would all coordinate is insane.
So you spend a lot of time, and guys, this is good for everybody, trying to keep folks in their highest productivity zone.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
That the lunch speaks to that,
Yeah,
right?
for
Keep them
sure.
in the zone, book the travel for them. So as you grow in your own career, you have team members, you always want to be trying to get people in their highest productivity zone. And that comes over time when you have resources and ability to do that, but always be thinking that way. And then I'm sure with these writers, you're creating raving fans. They probably love showing up to Creative Nation.
Yeah.
It's a fun place to be, which all of that just keeps fueling the creativity. Right?
Yeah, and that's actually a good point, because when we first started, we rented an office and we shared with another small company like us, and actually another couple that was married. And one thing I kind of got pushback on was that I didn't need to pay for an office. Like a lot of my mentors and kind of, we were talking business management, it was like, this is a big line item to start paying before you have income. And I really just pushed back on that. And I was like, look, creatives are different. And if we create something special here and creatives feel loved in here and they like each other, it's going to pay off. And also, when I have a new writer at the coffee pot, and Luke and Barry are writing with a big artist, that's an artist they would never meet.
Right.
And so it also creates other combos and creates relationships between other writers that they wouldn't necessarily like rub shoulders with. And I've really seen that to be true. And I think this is really simple, but I have found when you are attentive to creatives, and this is as simple as, we have a really great coffee pot. We have lots of different types of creamer. We have all different types of drinks and snack drawers. And we're like very, very proud of that.
Yeah.
They feel loved.
Right.
They feel loved and seen. Because normally, if you were writing somewhere, if they need to cut a budget, where are they going to cut? They're going to cut expenses, and that's what they're going to cut. And I actually was at a place where this happened, and they cut everything. We had powdered creamer and we had bottles of water, and that was it. And I could see like the writers felt so demoralized, and it was almost like they were being punished.
Yeah, it's hard. Another lesson. Thanks for walking me into it. It's hard to cut your way to profitability, and that doesn't mean you don't look out for expenses and don't overspend.
Sure.
But when you're trying to cut your way to become profitable, that has a collateral damage effect. Like you said, I always think whenever I come over, your place always feels like a coffee shop to me.
Yeah, that's exactly the vibe I want.
And that's a compliment, right? Because people do
totally.
hang out. They're around.
Yeah.
They like being in the building because they don't have to stick around. They could do their thing and walk out. But that is never the case. People are always hanging around. So you've created a wonderful mousetrap, which is fantastic.
I love it. And I like me, but also my employees. We love being around creatives. Like we have 2 buildings now. So we thought about, we can make one, the writer house. That's what a lot of people do. They'll do like one business, one writer house. And that's kind of more common. And no one on my staff wants to do that. And even the writers, that we all are mixed in and we love that. And I think it does create like a different environment as well.
Okay, let's move on to revenue, because all businesses have to have revenue, unless you win the lottery or coming from generational wealth. I wish I came from generational wealth.
Same.
Let's talk about evolving sales strategies in this competitive industry. So you guys have had remarkable success with major singles in country and pop. What is the approach to positioning songs and artists in a way that maximize revenue potential without compromising artist integrity?
Yeah. That's hard. I think if you have an exceptional, unique talent, that is actually what sets you apart and will make you successful. But there has to be an element of it that is commercial enough that can appeal to a broader audience. And so you're right. Like the convergence of that is hard.
Tricky, isn't it?
No, it's very tricky.
And you guys have tons of patience. Like you don't operate like a factory. You don't operate like you don't operate like a mill house.
No, we love seeing everyone as a creative human. And honestly, I mean, you know this about me. You can speak on my behalf here, but like I'm very aware that one of the best things about the way I do things is that I really love and care about humans, and I really want them to succeed. And also my downfall in business is that I do care too much. Yeah. And I know that also can, hold you back. But I think for us, I have found when you have an exceptional creative talent, you can't make it happen for them, but you can set up all the right opportunities for them to go in and win. And I think we really think strategically around that.
Yeah.
Where some people are like, hey, you're a songwriter, I'm a songwriter, we should write a song. We don't think like that. We specifically go into like, what is your skill set and how do we put other people in the room that are going to make you better and you make them better, that could lead to an outcome that makes money. And so that is, it's really a strategic play, I think, and also trying to push them out of their comfort zone without changing who they are. I think you can really bring out what's unique in someone, and then you also can put other people in the room, or your pluggers, as they're giving feedback, can talk to them in a way that's like, hey, how do we take what you do that will stand out, but know that there is somewhat of a structure or formula.
Yeah.
If you want artists to sing this, or if you are the artist, that you would sing it and that people would be able to hold on and grasp something and stick in that. So I think a lot of it is like communication and opportunities and setting people up. But
so that plugger becomes a super important part of the mix.
sure.
Maybe a lot of the people that are tuning in don't know what a plugger is.
Yeah.
Tell
most
us about
people
the
don't.
pluggers and what their role is and how do they help the factory go?
So it's interesting in Nashville. If you work at a publishing company and you work with songwriters and you're pitching songs, you're called a song plugger. Everywhere else outside of Nashville, you're not actually. So it's a uniquely Nashville term, but it's for plugging songs. So basically, you're going to help get to know the writer and their strengths. You're going to do their calendar, set them up on co-writes. And then as these songs come in, you're going to help critique them or help them get demoed out so that you have like a full, I don't know how to explain, a demo. Basically go in the studio and put like more professional music to it, or keep it as just a guitar and vocal. You're going to kind of guide them through that process of what's best for those songs. And then you're going to go pitch those songs. And so you're pitching them to artists, producers, A&R people at labels, managers, and really all across the board. I mean, now it's the Wild West.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to get a song. I'm going to try to get a song to an artist by any means possible if I think it's great for them.
Yes.
And so that's really what they're doing. So I would say they're really like the sales team for Creative Nation and for our songwriters, and what they're selling are songs.
So their relationships with the songwriters have to be so tight.
Really good, yeah.
And that gets back to, we use some tools to help that, right? The disc profile and how do we address and talk to people the right way and who's best to talk to whom and when and all that stuff. But what an important, you've got two great pluggers on your team too.
Yes, they're so good. And they work really well together. And I think that's one thing I didn't like, that some places kind of made everyone, even on the employee side, against each other and compete. Like, and I get the mentality, man, if you get 5 cuts and I get 10, I'm going to get more money at the end of the year. I understand that is motivating, but when you're on a tight creative team, you might have a better relationship with that person, but I might just want to get the cut. And so I might go to a less valuable relationship to just try to get it cut.
Yeah.
So that I can get that as my bonus. Or I'm out of town and you send the lyrics the day that they're cutting and I pitch the song. I want that to be a team effort. And I want, between me and our 2 pluggers, we share all creative information and all creative relationships, because that's what's best for the songwriters.
With the change in, has our sales or revenue strategy evolved as the shift toward digital and changing consumer behaviors? How does that impact how we get through the day with plug-in or pitch-in? Or
I mean, I think it's changed dramatically when it's shifted to streaming. And I think right now, while we're in a very socials-driven TikTok AI world, we're watching real time. It changes well. So in publishing, songwriters make the lion's share of their money from having a song on the radio. And as we all know, radio, especially in country, is important, but it used to be the gatekeeper. And so now you can have a successful career as an artist and never have a song on the radio. And streaming is getting better and better as far as rates for songwriters and publishers, but it still doesn't equal a song on the radio. So you have to have a lot more of streaming success, which means you're really trying to pair songwriters and artists that fit, that can have those relationships. And you have to do it earlier on. So you might not know, it might not be you're going in every single time to write with someone who has a record deal, who has a song on the radio. And that used to be the way it was. If you were a hit songwriter, you could say, I'm not going to really do anything unless I know I'm closer to making money on it. And now it's just not like that. Overnight, they could be huge and they could already have their circle of writers. And so you really want to just try to curate as much as you can. It's hard, but what writers and what artists you think could have the best chance of success and set them up in that way.
Yeah. Do you ever see well, with the TikTok star who gets out there and has a song, and now they come to Nashville? How do you? I bet some of them don't have any skill set other than their one video. Do you see that kind of immediately? Like, do you know very fast or not?
Okay, so
or like, how do you place a bet on someone who went viral on one TikTok song, but maybe he's never been on a stage before? Like,
yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about this real time right now. I think the one thing I have to lean on in my team is that TikTok's a tool, but we still have to go through all the same checks and balances. So we need to feel like there is a unique talent, that it is something that could be a long-term career, and that they fit what we've built, and see potential that seems bigger than the moment. You don't always know this. Also, we can set them up for co-writes with our people, and that kind of helps as well. But you're not going to know for sure. I think what's challenging right now is that you're betting on talent so early. Everybody's jumping in so early that you really have to bet on potential. And you've always done that a little bit, but it's been in a different way. They've been through.
It's a faster bet, because you're
way
always
faster.
Your entire world is betting on potential, but this speeds it up, I would guess. Or you got to make a decision faster,
way faster, way earlier.
It's harder to hedge your bet. I was always thinking about your business like you're always hedging bets, and you've got some good ways to hedge the bets, and that's why it works over time. This is a whole different. It's completely different. It's a completely different way to hedge. Or how do you? I think faster, probably. I guess
the first thing that I would do is, if they are an artist, try to see them live and get a link of other songs. Okay. I want to know that there's more beyond one.
Yeah.
And that they're prolific enough to continue to do it, because there's a difference in feeling inspired and putting something up and then actually doing this as a career. So I want to feel like, when you meet with them, a lot of times you can tell if this is like, oh, I wrote a song, I'm trying it out, or like, I'm really interested and I want to work for this career. So I think those things really do help. Sometimes someone will have a hit. They've never played a show. It's the first song they've ever written. And sometimes you have someone that has a hit. Like, a great example of someone people feel like was overnight was Shabuzi. And that song, a bar song. It's so massive right now, but he had been making records and he had been doing this for 10 years. So by the time something like that happens, or like Walker Hayes is a good example, he had record deals, he had toured. So for them, that was just a tool that really got ears on it. But if you're brand new and it happens, I really feel like it can be the best thing for your career, because it could give you a reason and kind of the feedback you need to actually jump into the career, move to Nashville.
Okay.
And at the same time, it can be a real detriment, because what if that isn't really the music you like? And what if that isn't really what you want to do? And it blows up and you're not ready. And 3 years later, your has-been it's like a one-hit wonder back in the day, So I think it really can be both things.
Okay. Let's talk about, we'll stay in the revenue category for a minute, leveraging relationships and partnerships. So I think partnerships can help you drive both the visibility and the revenue. How do you approach collaborations with other labels or managers or media to strengthen the brand for Creative Nation and for the songwriters?
Yeah, I think really kind of in the same way, maybe it's like writers and employees, finding people that you feel like have an exceptional skill set that they can bring that you don't really have. And then also working with good people. I think we just always think we want to add or partner or work with people who really do want to do a good job and will work hard. And I think you come across both types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the frustrating type is when they want to be a part of it, but they don't really want to do anything. And it's nice when you really find great people, because we are in the trenches and we are starting really early and we are doing artist development, and it is very ground up. And so you really need people who are willing to figure out how to get something done for less in the beginning. You know, it's not like the artists are making money. So you're really figuring out like who's the right passionate teammate who gets this and will help us get creative about it, because we can't just go hire the most successful, most expensive publicists or whatever. You know, we can always take it to our friend who is, and if they have room for passion projects that they love and they're really into it, and they might have someone at their company who wants to jump in. So we've done that as well.
Passion projects.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, and it works out well. But then sometimes you just have to get scrappy and figure out, you know, who, beyond what the name of the company is or what their success is, who is the human that is going to be the point person for us and our partnership on this team. And that's the most important thing to us.
What do you think is more, what would you rather have? Someone with a lot of talent or someone that will work really hard?
Someone that will work really hard.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
hopefully they have both.
On the songwriter side, that's hard.
Tricky question. I knew it was going to be
very tricky on the
tricky
songwriter
question.
side. Yeah, on the songwriter side.
Because you got one that doesn't write all the time, but he's brilliant.
Yeah, and then some that literally will do 10 writes a week.
Yeah. And eventually get there and get better, hone their craft, and the hard
so I
work
think
gets
it's
them there.
different. I think creatives really are different.
Okay. Yeah,
I
was
really
thinking about
do.
that question before I even asked. This is a good question. Because I don't have a preset answer to that. So
I do think you have to be willing to work hard. I think that some of them do it in different ways. Like everybody on our team works 5 days a week, but it might not be a co-write.
Okay.
It might be in the studio, or it might be getting ideas to take into a really good write. So I kind of feel like you have to have a work ethic, but if you don't have the talent,
right.
I don't know that.
Okay.
As a songwriter,
Yeah.
I don't know that'll get you there. It's so competitive. And to make a living being a songwriter,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such...
You kind of got to come with both, really, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's really few people. I mean...
Okay. Let's move to the profit section a little bit. And so profitability with creatives can be a really delicate thing.
Sure.
And how do you make financial decisions at Creative Nation that support the growth of the artist, but also protects the company's bottom line?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because, again, some of it you know, and some of it is a guessing game. Most of it's a guessing game. But I think we would always, from the beginning, we would try to do deals with the creatives that put them in a spot where they feel comfortable, but be honest about, because we're fronting the money so early before the revenue comes in.
Yeah.
Really saying to them, hey, if you own some of this publishing and you own your writer's share, we want you to be able to recoup this money so that you actually can get to profitability and ownership of this piece.
Okay.
If you take too much in an advance and you get upside down, we could still want to work together, but we might not be able to financially continue to move forward, which would be the worst if you actually are doing well and want to continue to work together. But then on the other side, if you don't ever recoup, you don't ever actually own that piece of your copyright.
Right.
And so it's in the best interest of both parties to do what is reasonable in a deal. And so I think that's like the starting point of how you make it right. And if you can't do what's reasonable, we're not going to do an unreasonable deal. Because we're self-funded, because, we're small. And I think just our mentality is kind of, we all are doing this together the same. And so everybody there, I think we all look at it as like, you can take upfront advance money, but that is an advance that is recoupable. Mm-hmm. What we want to do is we want to sit down with you and strategically build your career so that you own real assets that you can sell on the back end.
Right.
And not be so focused on an advance. get you to the point where you don't even need an advance.
Yeah.
That would be the goal.
And so for the listeners out there who don't know anything about music, tell us what a writer's advance is.
Oh, okay.
And,
Yes.
And what does owning your publishing mean?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many weird.
This is it's just the craziest business. It's just the craziest business.
And it's really complicated, but
the way I like, I'll set you up for it. The way I liken the writer's advance is similar to sales organizations who give their salesperson enough to where they can buy bread and milk, but go crush it on their own.
Yes.
And the higher that salary goes, the less commission potential.
Yes.
It's pretty similar.
Yes, that's actually a really good way of explaining it. So simply put, like if we're signing, let's say a new writer and it's a 4-year deal, we would commit to giving them an advance, a yearly advance, and that would be based upon them delivering a minimum commitment of a certain amount of songs per year. And that goes out monthly. So it's as if it was a salary. Mm-hmm. But when royalties come in, those royalties, a share of those royalties go back to recoup that advance.
Right.
And once you're made whole, if you're splitting the ownership in that song, then you actually own that song. And then as the money comes in, it would continue flowing to you.
Right.
Then as you have assets over time, if your assets are valuable enough.
Meaning
and
more songs that made it.
Right. More songs, more copyrights over time. You can sell those at a multiple, which means you take whatever is your NPS on the song and basically put a multiple on it, like this is what this will make over the next 10 years.
Right.
And so you would go sell these assets. And obviously that's very, very few songwriters are able to do that. But that's the goal is to actually get them to that point. Yeah.
I think it's so interesting because folks outside of the music business, including me, before I dove into it, don't even know that this songwriter career even exists. And they can make... The dream is real. Some people make it and make it big. And so just like in any other industry, head down, hard work, combination of the talent, hard work, you can get there. Yeah. And you don't have to be on the stage to make it.
No. Most of them, if you're just a songwriter, for the most part, most of them don't want to be on a stage.
Right.
Like that's the whole thing. They want to live a normal life. They want to go in and be creative every single day.
Yeah.
And if you're an artist, a lot of times you might be touring and performing the exact same set or the exact same songs.
Yeah.
For a year.
Right.
They are not motivated by a crowd.
Yeah.
They're motivated by being creative every day. That's their favorite part.
And the beautiful thing is that you can go to a restaurant without being attacked.
Exactly.
Right?
It's a total normal life, but you also get to be a part.
Right.
So it's kind of cool. You're adjacent. You're such a big, huge part. You're really where all the creativity starts. None of us in the music business have a job without a song. Right. If you really think about it, you have to start with an idea and a song, and then everyone else has their job.
Yeah.
And so you're on the ground floor of the creative level, which is what we love so much. But I will also say, songwriters are the last to get paid. So that's hard as well. They don't get paid as much as other people, and their shares are lower. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that's mandated by the government. So we don't always have control over that. And so we're also, as publishers, we're always lobbying, and we're like NMPA, NSA, all these organizations to just make sure to at least protect their royalties because they aren't the star. You don't hear about them and you don't know about them. And so we're always just trying to make sure everybody knows, hey, there's a whole creative industry behind here. Yeah. As far as songwriters, musicians, and producers, particularly, that you're not really going to see, but created the music that you love and hear. And so really educating people is really important.
What a tricky business. Let's talk about the self part a little bit. You and Luke are like many other folks that start a business together, and you happen to be married, and that you've navigated that beautifully. But how do you and Luke navigate these boundaries? I see it all the time, and half the time it works. It is either the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. It's never like, we had an okay day. If when married couples work together, it's either the best or the worst. You guys, over the course of time, your roller coaster has headed up. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate that?
Great question. Get asked it all the time. And I totally agree with you. I don't know anyone or any couples that we know. It either dissolved, the marriage and the company, or it made the marriage and company better.
Yeah.
And so I would say, okay, first of all, the 2 pieces of advice I got when we were starting Creative Nation is don't start a company with your husband and don't use your own money. And for those of y'all that don't know, we sold Luke's catalog, took our money, put it in an account, and made a 5-year business plan. And so we were married, starting a company together, using our own money. So, I mean, it does add an extra stress because it is your money as well. It wasn't investors for us. But the difference in us, and I would say, like, I really don't think it's for everyone. And now I understand why people said that. Like, I didn't understand. But for us, we have 2 very unique and different skill sets. And our skill sets are better with the other. So honestly, I don't want to run a publishing company without having his input and what he brings. And he had no desire to run a company. He wants to go in every day and be creative. He doesn't want to run a staff. He doesn't want to run an office or any of that. And so that's what I love. I can't do what he does. I can't sing. I can't write a song. And so because our skill sets are so opposite, they play really well together.
Yeah.
And because we have such mutual respect and love for each other and each other's talent, I think we really are in awe of each other's talent. It like allows us to have this like really great mutual respect where we can make decisions together because we're coming from different viewpoints. One thing I always tell everyone is at the end of the day, we still come home and say, how was your day? Like over dinner, I'm like, how was today? What happened? Give me some info. Who's like, how's it? So we don't sit next to each other like this in an office.
Right.
I think if we had the same skill set and we were sitting in offices next to each other, that would be very challenging. But we have really different days and they come together really nice. So then when we do have wins, we really get to share those together. And when we have losses, we're there for each other and you don't feel as alone because it is true that when you're a business owner, it can get lonely and isolating. And especially as you grow, I never anticipated that.
Yeah. It gets worse as you grow.
Yeah. I think I always thought I'm going to start a company to do what I want and to be on a team. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, you're the boss and you're going to hire people to do those fun things.
And now you're responsible for them as well.
You're responsible and their families and their, and so, yeah, it becomes like a lot of responsibility. And I think having someone else to give you perspective when it feels too weighty is really nice for us.
Yeah. Well, you got lucky. You married somebody with the patience of Job. And it's just
and we're such a good mix.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful. Yeah.
Staying in the self lane. What about, how do you keep yourself balanced, self-care and making sure you see the kids and all that kind of stuff?
I don't think I've always done this well. I am a very, I don't even know how you could probably describe it. Go-getter, overachiever, very focused on productivity and efficiency. And so younger, I was really bad at this. I would go all day, all night, weekends. And I also really loved it until I got sick or until I burn out, and then I would be down, and then I'd be back up running hard again. And I think you eventually get to the point where you're like, okay, if I want to be in this industry for a long time, I can't do it like this. It doesn't last. And so I had to start putting some things in place. I will say starting a company was one of those because Luke and I both knew that we wanted to have children. And there weren't a lot of people older than me that I could look up to that had successful marriages and companies and children. And so I always questioned if it actually was possible in the music business. And I think people still kind of feel like that sometimes now, but we're changing it. But I knew at least I would be calling the shots on what I did instead of someone telling me what I would be doing. And so I do think that that was one step out of what was a chaotic period for me. And then also starting small like we did and growing and knowing like what we can handle and what we can't handle, I think is a big part of it. I know we could make more money and we could expand and scale quicker, but I wouldn't have the lifestyle I have. Right. And so I'm not willing to give that up. I want to have really successful marriage and be a great mom and friend as well. So I think that's always a balance for me, and it's not always great. And full balance. But I'm always trying. I'm going to work more sometimes, and I'm going to be with my family more sometimes, and I just try to go back and forth. I go to therapy. I'm very invested in therapy. Obviously, you and I meet about the business, and just working out, making sure I have time with the kids.
And now you've been able to develop some rock stars around you who can carry some of that load too. So you're not responsible for every
so helpful
part of the business. And another one out there in podcast land, if you're the CEO or you own your business, the ultimate goal is to be accountable for everything, but responsible for very little. And you're getting there. Like when we first met, like it's drastically different how you operate the business. And that's your own growth and the ability to bring people in that you can trust and push along.
Yeah. And I think having those people that are really great that you can trust, I mean, so invaluable when you find those people. And I think it's moving from, we talk about this, but like, I do like executing and I do like getting there. I don't mind working hard. And so moving from that position into the coach position is difficult for me. And it has been difficult.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing a lot better. But I'm always trying to figure out, like, when do I need to be boots on the ground and when do I need to go hard and when do I need to let them do that and just be here and available. And I think that is like an interesting transition for all companies if you're going through being a small company and growing. And so that has definitely been like one of the big, I would just say like challenges.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Probably that I didn't know.
Learning how to get results through other people is a majorly gear shift. And so when people start their company and you get results because of your metal.
Yeah, especially entrepreneurs.
Right. You're rock and roll. Eventually, as you grow, you got to start hiring people. Now you got to get results through others. And if you don't have a developed leadership style, that can be a nightmare. And
and we see it all the time.
We see it all the time.
So I think I also can now recognize when other people are doing it.
Yeah.
Not well, like not doing it well. And then go like, oh, okay. I don't note to self. I don't want to do that. Or they are doing it well. I want to lean in and kind of ask more about how they're doing that. I think I also just have always asked a lot of questions and I'm like very curious person.
Yeah.
So I really like to learn. Yeah. And so I'm always trying to learn new things. I'm always listening to podcasts, reading articles. I'm just always trying to take in knowledge and be better. I really want to be the best leader I can be. And I feel like my team deserves that. So when I do have great people, I feel like it makes me even more want to be great at what I do and find ways to support them better.
Yeah, well, it's working. Let's talk about the other last thing in self. To much is given, much is expected. Is that the quote? Something like that. So, and you and Luke are highly charitable, and so is Creative Nation. And you have a favorite in Preston Taylor Ministries. Tell us about that relationship.
Yeah, so it started really early on. We just became a monthly donor for this company or this charity called Preston Taylor Ministries. I had heard about them and just read up, and I was like, this is really interesting. I didn't even know this exists, and it was literally in our backyard, basically. It's in Nashville. I never even heard of it. So as we got more involved over time, I met with the executive director and I realized what they were doing for at-risk families and children. And it honestly blew my mind. It was so incredible that I didn't know this program existed and what they were doing from elementary, even up through graduation. So I was just blown away by these people and what they're providing to these children and these families. And Luke and I went one time, we volunteered, we were watching them, and we were like, wow, we can't do that. That skill set, I just have the utmost respect for it, but I don't know how to do that. So we told him, we said, well, one thing we do know how to do is we know how to put on a songwriter round, this show where our songwriters play to make money. Mm-hmm. And they said that'd be great because we don't have any advertising. We don't spend money on any of that. And I realized no one in the music business was even aware what they were doing. So we were like, okay, our goals will be to raise money and to raise awareness. And so I think our last one was 13 years. We've done it every year and we've grown it and we've given them more money. And I'll say it's been really cool because now my team leans in. Yeah. My staff does a lot of it and they enjoy it. And so do our songwriters play a free show to raise money. And it's been it's become a big pillar of our company and who we are. And like every year it's a big touch point of us all getting together because it's really one of the only times like our entire team is present because we all have such different schedules. And it's just been really amazing to do it together. Has changed a lot. And it just started so small and has grown into so much. It makes me so happy. And then also I think I kind of get motivated by like, if we sell this catalog or if we can get these singles and if we can make this amount of money, we could donate this amount of money and start a new location for Preston Taylor or get them a new bus so that they bus more kids home. For me, that makes me a part of a bigger purpose than I just want to get singles on the radio. I want to make money. I mean, yeah, we want to do that, but there's just so much more and there's so much richness if you know, like my success is going to actually help, in this case, at-risk youth in Nashville. It's like that's such a direct correlation, and I just love that.
Well, I'm proud of you for that. And this year it was the biggest ever and sold out before it even went on sale.
I know.
I mean,
that was amazing.
Need a bigger building.
I think that's one thing I've been surprised about too. That has really like warmed my heart is reaching out to other business owners and people connected to us and people mostly outside the music business,
right? And
them saying, we love this night. We love this organization. We'll absolutely put money towards it. And so that's been really cool too, because I feel like now we brought in all these partners along with us who are doing the same thing. And it just makes it better. It just makes it more fun. And you can see it in Preston Taylor and their staff. They're so grateful. We don't have anyone that comes to us that says, let us just put on a whole event to raise awareness and then give you a check. And I'm just like, yeah, but that's why it's special is that you aren't having to do the work. Yeah.
What's next for Creative Nation? What's 2025 look like?
That's always hard because we kind of feel like if we find an artist and songwriter that fits, we'll sign them. And if we don't, we won't. So if we find someone we love that
That's another beautiful thing about entrepreneur. You're like, you don't have to chase something just to hit a number.
I know. That's honestly the number one question I get asked is what is like your number of songwriters? Like what's the number at which is too much or what's that kind of perfect sweet spot? And I'm like, I mean, I know this is weird to say and confusing to you, but I don't have one. And if 2 showed up in the next 6 months, we would sign them. And if no one shows up, sometimes we don't sign anybody for a year. That's fine too. It's just got to make sense for us. And we have to feel like we can do our best job for them and that we're setting them up for success. Because otherwise, I don't want to do it. It's too hard to part with people when you're working this close and in this close of environment. So I want to just take the best swings we can and do right by those people. So I don't really know, but I do know everything's changing and we're leaning into that. I think one good thing is because we're small, we can change quicker. Yeah. And although it's scary for smaller companies because you don't have the depth of songs and catalog that are generating revenue, like, we don't own the classics that are just every year churning out money like the majors do. So that if they lose this year, it's really okay. And it can be a write-off. For us, we're dealing with real numbers. So the main things I'm focused on, obviously, are going to be what's happening in DC around copyrights, what's going to happen with these rates for streaming. We're in that right now, and bundling is a huge thing we're talking about. And then also just looking at things like TikTok and AI and new services and how can we make sure that they're paying creators and then also use it for good? And how do we integrate it into what we do? Because the landscape is changing and it's always going to change. So I think my job really feels more than ever. It's like stay educated and stay on top of that stuff. And no one knows the answer, but just adapt as you can and as you go. That's really all I can do.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for today.
Thanks for having me.
And guys, this is Beth is someone, a disc profile for out there in well-coached land. She's got a high I, but she's got this rising D right beside it. So I always tell people, I think people over the course of time have underestimated Beth greatly because she's always leading with this smile and this charisma and all that kind of stuff. But she knows exactly where she's going. And that's a beautiful combination. Organization part, as low as mine. So she's got her Kelsey, right? She builds her team around particular strengths. The other thing we learned about today is a continuous student of the game. She's always trying to learn. That's super important for an entrepreneur, always trying to learn, because if you don't, you will get outrun by someone. As soon as you have success, someone is chasing you. Yep. And if you are not improving, at some point they'll pass you by. The other thing Beth does is surrounds herself with really good people, me included, that have no one's interest other than hers at heart. And as a business leader, it gets lonelier as you go along, and you need folks around you who absolutely would go to the wall for you no matter what, and don't have any other motive other than to help look out for you. And that's important. And oftentimes business owners, they don't do that fast enough. And so when you get into turbulent times, anybody can fly the plane when there's no clouds. And but as soon as it gets turbulent, you want a very experienced pilot or someone that can help you fly that plane.
That was me.
Yeah.
And, I'm a great example of when you came in, we were going from, we've done this now 5 years or whatever. And then it's like, now we're moving to the next level. It's like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
Double responsibility, double the amount of risk on money.
Yeah.
Moving to coach. It's like I was shifting gears for sure.
Yeah. I remember your calendar was switching gears. I remember when we first started, you're like, I feel bad. I'm paraphrasing, but it's feeling bad. I've got all these people, because Beth is an unbelievable networker and has tons of friends, so everybody wants to see her all the time. But these calendar blocks, you'd be like, well, this is a 2-hour lunch. This is a 3-hour meeting. Like, Beth, it doesn't mean you got to cut these people out, but let's shorten the time a little bit, because you can be just as impactful, right?
Yeah.
So back to the other thing with the work and not taking on too many songwriters at once, activity does not always equal productivity.
Oh, yeah. And that was not something I understood.
Yeah.
I surely did not understand that.
Yeah.
And so also because of that, having space for creative ideas, and then learning the only way I can literally look out for all these things we're talking about and learn and see what's happening in the landscape is I have to look up. And I really think about that a lot. It's like I can be down in the weeds, executing, being a player, going to all these meetings every day. But if I don't look up, no one else is. Right. And so I have to look up, have space, have creative ideas, scan the landscape, know what we're up against, also see opportunities, even if I'm grabbing them and throwing them to them, which happens a lot. If I don't do that, no one else on the team is doing that job.
Right.
And so I really try to think about it like that now.
Awesome. Well done.
Well, thank you.
Looking forward to see what's next.
Me too.
All right, team. Thanks a bunch. Go download us and share it and tell everybody how wonderful this was. All right. Thanks a bunch. See you. Well, guys, that's a wrap for today. We thank you a ton for listening and looking forward to the next episode, where we'll continue this journey on how becoming corporate enough can put you in your highest productivity zone to create a successful, profitable, and purpose-driven business for you.